Dude, how many of the True Brewing beers did you guys go through? There's quite a few.
Those are all ones we've tried. Well, those are the ones we've tried together. I have several more that
I've had 2
ventured on my own.
Is that 8?
Probably. Those have all been done on the show.
Yeah.
Nice. I like how they're all demonic.
What?
They are,
No, dude, they're not demonic.
Yeah, they aren't. They're darker.
Nah, dude.
Not a big symbol guy, huh?
Chapel of Ghouls. That's not
You
demonic.
think that's evil? That witch coming out of the water.
Siren.
The siren. And we're rolling. We're in it.
That doesn't make it demonic. That just makes it like
Evil. They're all evil.
gothy.
The only one that's not that. Well, I think the only one that I'm like,
Blood Axe, is that evil?
well, I think it's pushing evil, but I like that golden sword one. What's that one? I can't see it from here.
Skull Seeker.
Ah, yeah, that's
It's the golden.
that's pretty brutal.
It's the sword going through the skull.
Yeah, never mind. They're all.
Dude, the Nazareth is not demonic. That's just like a wasteland traveler.
That's true. But what? Yeah, you mean the? Yeah, but he's like the gas mask guy.
Yeah.
The post-apocalyptic gas mask.
Are you the kind of guy that thinks that horror movies are not demonic?
What do you mean, like, not demonic?
Okay.
Like, there are definitely horror movies
That
that
answers
are,
my
like,
question.
around demons.
Horror movies are demonic.
I mean, I've never felt possessed or anything by one, but I do enjoy horror movies a lot.
Yeah, I think they're cool too. I just don't watch them anymore
Because they scare you.
because they're demonic.
Yeah, I too have. The only reason I watch horror movies is for the show. I do it for the kids.
Sure,
But I don't engage them because I agree that I think I think occasionally not that big a deal. Then certain ones, they're just bad for your soul. But I'll do it for the kids here on the show. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
Hey, I get what you guys are saying. I guess I've just never felt that way when it comes to horror movies. I feel that way
Really?
more when it comes to like brutal, true stories that are like just
I feel like
awfully like jaded and nihilistic about like.
Hotel Rwanda.
I honestly don't think that one is that. No, but I definitely think like there's like a vein of films that I feel like are just purely glorifying the like consume everything,
Mhm.
give nothing, and accept you die alone in a tub.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I almost would say this. I feel grosser watching most like autobiographies than I do horror movies.
All right.
Because I
just
don't
because they
I
get
feel,
into the gross detail of these people.
Well, I filter out horror movies that I think are just like if a horror movie's purpose is purely like shock factor, body horror, gore.
Sure.
It doesn't scare me. It just is like unsettling, and I'm not interested in it.
Mm-hmm.
But like horror movies that are legit like metaphorical or even like based in truth,
Mm-hmm.
like that, I think is like. I think it's
exploring a deeper.
I think it's like a more
man.
Yeah, it's a more human like a thing for me, and I guess it's also one of those things like I remember being a kid and having nightmares, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I just had terrible nightmares, terrible night terrors. I couldn't watch horror movies as a kid because I was just like I wouldn't sleep. I couldn't handle the fear and the anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
I just remember someone telling me, I can't remember who, but they're like, "Bro, you're in total control in your dreams. Like you can the things in your dreams are only scary because you give them the power to be scary, and like you can have authority over that stuff." And I was like, "Okay, I'll try that." And sure enough, that's like 100% true. If you can develop the, like actual, I would say like habit of being self-realized in your dreams, right? Same thing I think applies to like truly like the most darkest evil, like, which is like spiritual warfare, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think like, I truly believe spiritual warfare is 100% real. I truly believe I have seen, evil, twisted things that I don't even know if like the term spirit is right. Cause I truly view like spirit as like a human soul that goes on to an afterlife. Right. Like things that are like have no purpose or have no place being on the same plane of existence as us, right?
Supernatural.
I would say, I would say like, I'd say ghouls. I'd say I'd seen some fucking ghouls in my day. All right, some demons.
Scooby-Doo term I think I've heard all week.
Well, because you say demons and immediately the connotation's religion, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which all three of us are very like devout Christians, right? But I think if you describe it in like, I would say I don't necessarily believe in quote unquote, well, I shouldn't say that. I do believe in ghosts. I do believe that there's a very thin, narrow margin for ghosts to occupy in. And I believe that's contextualized in scripture, right? It's the ritualistic summoning and calling upon, just like Saul does when calling Solomon.
Yeah.
But I don't believe in like a soul that isn't somewhere else that is just roaming earth. But I do believe in like malicious and also benevolent supernatural beings that will at times occupy like our material plane. And whether you want to be scripturally based on it, say like demons and quote unquote devils, depends on, you know, if you discern like there's only one devil and then there's a bunch of demons, right? There's a lot of variation of definitions here. And then of course angels or other celestial creatures, right? Other celestial beings, like you know, angels is grouping of course a ton of like the seraphim, the cherubims, stuff like that, right? It's like one of those things, like I believe in all of those. And I believe I've seen examples of each to a degree, more so the darkness, evil. And I've also believed like it is through my awareness of like faith and like how those things are, like what the rules are around those things, is why I feel like I don't fear them, and I feel comfortable watching things about that. Like I don't watch it out of like the, oh, this isn't real, this is just fun, or out of the, oh man, if maybe we should summon a demon to test it. Like none of that stuff, right? But it is out of like that thing of like, perhaps like I've heard it phrased by a more spiritually wise man than I, but he's like, there's a degree of like, you watch other people's, you might watch like a movie about people hunting because it helps you relive the hunt, or you watch like a movie that's an overlapping experience because it helps you process or relive that. And I genuinely think like demonic horror and stuff like that, there's a degree of that I find almost like not comforting, but just maybe cathartic, and like, yeah, dude, that's real and that happens, and like that provides validity to, I feel like, my experience is the experience of others.
And maybe you view it through a different lens than just someone sitting there who wants to be scared, like people who just love the scare, that sort of thing.
Sure.
Like
I do enjoy the feeling of like, I like, okay, they nailed it, I believe this is real, and there is an excitement to that. But it's been forever since I've been scared, you know, or unsettled.
By no means would I say that there's a lot of horror movies that are like good films.
Sure.
Right?
Sure, yeah.
Like they're well made, they're well written, like not taking that away from it all. But I like look at it like, when you do things, you're opening spiritual doors.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That's like, and to say like, all right, well, if you're in control, then you can do it. That's like saying like, I can smoke crack because I'm in control. You know, like I'm just gonna try it because I know that after I'm in control. Like I got this.
We'll do a little bit of crack. Okay. I mean, I'm not even gonna lie. I'm not even gonna disagree with you. Sometimes when I'm like there's this movie that came out called what was it just recently? I can't remember. Haunt, though, I don't see as demonic.
Yeah.
Haunt is like, I think, schlocky entertainment. Like I do think there's a lot of horror movies that I enjoy because they're just like very schlocky, entertaining, like classic run for your life from a serial killer.
Yeah, but to Dean's point, he was using the umbrella term that we would use, like when you're engaging in letting the portals of your soul, which are your eyeballs, engage in naughtiness and or
honest, though.
destructive things, demonic in that of like horror movies. Like, it's just meaning it's not like you could be like, The Exorcist, demonic, haunt, slasher, whatever. But like,
sure.
To your point being, if I'm assuming right, was like overarching, like this is just a thing you got to be careful about putting into your soul.
You're opening spiritual doors, and in the same way, I would say like pornography is the same.
That would be my other is like I've never felt guilt watching a horror movie, and I've never felt shame or something from it. I have left like asking questions or perplexed, but I still avert my eyes from any kind of nudity, and I go out of my way to not watch like films that are heavy in like sexual content, right? Just because I do feel like that is opening the door to allow myself to be like spiritually tempted to watch pornography or something like that, right?
Sure.
But like if I watch a horror movie, I feel no temptation to engage in anything other than a thought experiment of, what does God's word say about that, XYZ thing? Or honestly, like even for a lot of other horror ones, it's just more of like, I see them as like creative. What's the term? I guess I just see them as like a creative expression that is like borderline enjoyable. Like I will say, like
some people would say that a good old classic porn film is the same.
No, you're right. I'm not denying that. Like I'm not going to deny that. Like you can
King Dong,
King Dong. Bro, dude. No, that's a good point. But we watched Portrait of God.
Yeah,
and that was a scary short film.
It was a scary short film,
but I don't see that as like a evil thing to like open and like take part in.
And
I see that as like a appreciation of like, wow, this is a very well done film with a very eerie point to it that I am not going to like invest anything. I'm not going to be like, wow, actually, God is an evil, malicious creature. But I see it and I'm like, damn. That was like really well done. Like that, the concept was very well executed.
Yeah,
and I think that what's demonic is whatever just came out of your dog. That is a wretched dog fart right now that I'm experiencing. No, dude, that's the dog. But anyways,
beef liver,
some beef liver dog fart.
It's like beef liver and duck jerky.
Oh, God.
Last time I almost got executed.
Because you cracked one of these on a Brews and Reviews before we did the thing.
That's true. And if you guys haven't noticed,
open beer whenever you want.
There's 3 of us here tonight.
Oh yeah, sorry, Dean's here.
We got Dean in the house.
Dean's back.
He's our number one guest.
It's been a while
on attendance.
It's been a while since I've been here.
I mean, outside of. Did he go by Wayne? He did go by Wayne. Outside of Wayne, you're my favorite guest.
Wow.
Wayne ranks number 1 just because Wayne's Wayne, bro.
Yeah, but also like then we got Mr. Paul.
Okay, I mean Paul's cool too, right? Paul's also awesome, but I'm not like lifelong friends with Paul like I've been lifelong friends with this dude.
I hear you. But
this guy just immediately knows what to do when he comes on the pod.
He just knows to get in the groove.
Yeah.
We didn't even say we were starting the show because welcome to the Mick and Pat show, folks. We're recording a little bit of audio for you. We're just having a conversation about some,
good old porn.
Porn and angels. And demons.
I wonder what YouTube will do with like
what the AI will do for our description as we talk about that. It's like a little like Rom Jeremy like cherub. No, but I think what I was going to say was in the context of this like would be all things in moderation, right?
Yeah.
And then that blanket phrase, and then also like the age of someone of their ability to deal with it. And so I do think of like engaging the topics and the things, especially that horror movies bring up. I don't think it's good for like young people to watch them and to consume like excess amounts of them. I don't think it's also appropriate for like an adult to consume excess amounts of them. And because we can, like to your point, you're saying, I know this is a movie and I can appreciate it for its storytelling, its deeper like message and all these things versus like 12-year-old watching The Exorcist I don't know.
Maybe they can't appreciate it or understand or comprehend what's going on.
Same thing as like some people might say like, hey, you're 42, smoke the J.
Sure.
Hey, you're 10.
What?
Don't smoke the J. You know what I mean? Like,
give me the best or first horror movie you saw.
Best or first? Dude, I can't even remember the first one because I couldn't finish. I would say like borderline the first horror movie I ever saw that I watched the whole way through. And I know you're going to laugh at this. But Predator, dude. Predator is like at like third grade. Predator made me go from like, oh yeah, this movie's awesome. It's an action movie to like, it's out there in the woods, bro.
The first Predator movie that I saw was actually Alien vs. Predator, which was not that good, but it was still like
it was awesome.
It was great as
like a fifth grader.
Yeah,
and I didn't see any horror movies till high school. Probably till like 16, 17 at that point. Like
Pirates of the Caribbean.
Actually, I will say
that scared me. That would scare me bad when I was a kiddo.
Okay, when I saw how old
the
was
zombies?
Particularly the monkey.
The monkey one.
All right, so we watched Pirates of the Caribbean.
Yeah.
How old when it came out?
I mean, that was 06, maybe 05.
Yeah, so like I was like 6th grade, 5th grade, pretty young.
Yeah.
Now we watched that movie. I guess you could say it was the first horror movie because when he sticks his hand into the moonlight, and that turns into a skeleton, that's the first time you go, this isn't just a Disney movie. You know, like this is like I've been used to Pocahontas and Snow White, and whatever.
Dude, I had nightmares of them coming up out of the tub.
Yep.
Like, because they come out of the water when they climb onto the boat.
Yeah. And they're just and that scene where they're at the end when they're ambushing.
Yeah.
And they're just walking as skeletons. Yeah. I mean, because I was fairly young. That might classify as my first horror movie because also, remember when the monkey comes out as a skeleton as a jump scare?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That got me so bad. And I watched this with my parents, and I did. I might have been a 6th grader. Maybe it's a little too old for this. I was like 5th or 6th grade, but I was like, Dad, like I was worked up. He laid in bed with me.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Also, I had a Curious George stuffed animal.
Oh, yeah.
That was like, it was over on the wall.
Curious George is tainted now.
Well, my dad couldn't resist the opportunity.
No way.
We're like sitting there in bed,
savage,
and we're talking,
bro.
and I'm all calmed down, and then he grabs the monkey, and out of the corner of my eye, he goes, and I lost my mind, dude. And I mean, he got me so bad. And
I bet he thought it was hilarious.
Well, he did for about half a second till you realize, like that was funny for an adult, and I feel bad for what I was put in the moment. Vinny, so Pirates of the Caribbean, I'm gonna go with first horror movie.
That came out in 2003, actually. So if you saw it in theaters, you were like 3rd grade.
Yeah. Okay. So I wasn't. Yeah. Because I remember I was young enough that like my dad, laid down on my bunk bed with me, kind of like But then he got me with the monkey. Oh, I remember that to this day.
That's funny.
And then it wasn't until high school that I started, mostly watching those movies so that you could hopefully hold a girl's hand or we'd get together as a group of all of us high schoolers and scare them.
I think the first one I actually saw, I saw Jaws way too young. I don't remember it at all. I think I saw it before. I saw it as my brain was still at the age of development where it could block things out.
Yeah.
So my mom said that I was terrified of taking a bath or swimming in the pool afterwards. I have no recollection of any experience of being afraid to get in the tub.
That's how you know you did something wrong.
Yeah.
You're like, damn it.
Dude,
shouldn't have done that.
My mom, and she swears, I was scared as I'm like, dude, I can remember the first time I watched that movie with my grandfather in 6th grade when we rented it, right? But the real first horror movie I think that I saw was with my grandfather, and he was like, let's rent The Birds.
Oh yeah, Dad. I watched that with my great grandfather. Got me, dude.
I remember I was watching it. It's a black and white movie.
Yeah.
You're like classic, boring black and white movie. Then a jump cuts to the dude with his eyes pulled out and the birds pecking in his skull.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, dude. The image of that guy's eyeless face with birds eating his brains.
Was that Hitchcock?
Yeah, in black and white is so seared into my brain. I can see it clear as day still.
I don't think I've seen that movie actually.
And
Dude, it was a decent movie.
Yeah, and what's crazy about it is
It was like one of the first apocalyptic movies.
if I told you this, I'd be like, here's the story, and it's in black and white, old-timey movie.
It switches to color at one point.
Yep. But like just to be like old movie, here's the deal.
What's it called?
Called
Birds.
The Birds.
Old Birds.
It was just like, listen, black birds just like come to a town and like attack people.
Oh,
You'd be like, not scary.
1963.
Yeah. You'd be like, not scary. But it was scary. It scared people. I remember I watched it with my great grandfather and my mom. It freaked me out.
Yeah.
Got me pretty scared.
Yeah.
And if we're going with other scary, like because of age, my mom, which funny is my mom, like conservative Christian, protected me from a lot of things. But what's funny is she just didn't realize. She sat me down by myself and I watched Jurassic Park when I was 5.
See, I same age.
Yeah.
No horror, no fear at all. Saw it, just pure amazement, pure wonder.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, dinosaurs are cool. Like people screaming as they're eating. I'm like, that's fine.
Yeah. I wasn't ready for that.
They're hungry. It's okay.
I wasn't ready for the real people being eaten when I'm supposed to be watching
Let 'em eat.
Barney, for real.
I remember like it was within that like 2-hour runtime of that movie, whatever its runtime is. I went from being I love construction trucks, I love tractors, to like, these are dumb. Give me dinosaurs. Give me dinosaurs and army men. So dinosaurs. Dude, I literally just entertained myself with my dinosaurs eating army men.
For decades.
Yeah.
Like 4 to 7 decades. We don't know yet.
Yeah, exactly.
It's still going, actually.
I'm still entertaining myself with that, actually. I do it with friends now on every Friday night. It's called Dungeons and Dragons. But like, no, dude, I love those movies. I will say, all right, to your point though, Dean, my favorite horror movie, those are like the first ones I can roll. My favorite one though is it's a very dark movie. But it is very much on the spectrum of like spiritual warfare reality. And I'd say it's tied for 2. There's one that's called Where Evil Lurks. That is like they're both foreign actually. This one is like out of Mexico, I believe, or Argentina. And it's really weird. It's not like overtly stated, but there is some kind of transmitted like epidemic of a demon. Like you can literally contract some kind of demon possession, and there are certain people that are older now that remember the ways of how to get rid of them. And no one lives in the cities anymore. Everyone lives like out in like small, more rural village and communities, and it's like there's immediately no like debate of like what is going on. They just find this dude really like fat and bulbous and infected. Like it's like straight out of like the Old Testament. And they're like, oh, he's one of them. And like the word they use is weird. Like it's like the Spanish word for like consumer.
El gordo.
Yeah, no, seriously, yeah. And
Fatty.
they're like, there's a special way you have to do it, because if you don't do it the right way, the demon gets to essentially continually like possess and move from host to host throughout like this community, right? And it was just unreal how well done it was. And it's like clearly a small budget, but you watch it and you're like, yeah, that could be for real, like that in the future of people who are like not spiritually prepared. Like you have no idea like what the end of the world's going to be like, in the end times, according to Revelation, right? And it was just like a very sobering take on like, man, there's some pretty crazy stuff. And then the other one is about this cop who's undercover as a priest, and he's investigating a like Romanian monastery where a ton of women have been like disappearing around in the area. And I don't want to spoil that one, but it was really good too.
What's the name of that one?
I gotta look it up. But
right.
that one was like it was constantly on the knife edge of like, is this movie going to confirm supernatural occultism of like possessions, or is this a stunt and this like priesthood is actually kidnapping and murdering women?
Kind of like that first season of True Detective where you're like, is this happening or not? I don't know, but either way it's bad.
Dude, I don't think that I saw any quality horror movies as a kid because they were always like, actually I saw one, and I will say this is like, it's a pretty good movie, but there's like a collection of like the first, one of them that I think was the first one I saw, but it was a collection of a few of them that I think were amongst the first that I saw. One, Jeepers Creepers.
Oh, classic.
Yeah. Two,
So entertaining.
not even more of like a horror / just like odd movie, but Freddy vs. Jason.
Oh yeah, it's kind of almost a comedy now.
Yeah, yep. And then the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Those were like the first three that I saw.
The OG one.
Yes,
I had to wait till like 2 years ago before I had the courage to watch that.
I watched it when I was 5.
That's brutal, dude.
And that's maybe why I hate it.
You probably fucked up.
There's
That
like
probably fucked you up. I watched that like 2 years ago during the day. I was like, man, this movie is like all over the place and doesn't seem to be very coherent. The sound design's really off. It was definitely made for like $1,000, $10,000, right?
Yeah.
But you see that, and I can see very clearly, like, you watch that and you have no idea how to make sense of it, and you're just like, old houses in rural parts of wherever, never going in them.
Smoke break.
Smoke break.
Hey, Ken, it's Mick, and I've got something important to talk about. We all hope we never find ourselves in a self-defense situation, but life's unpredictable. Enter the National Self-Protection Plan from Attorneys on Retainer, an actual credible law firm you can put on retainer for your self-defense needs. For just $35 a month, you get national coverage in all 50 states for criminal and civil legal representation in self-defense situations, complete with a 24/7, 365 toll-free emergency line. That's real legal support when you need it most. What's in the package? Bail bonds, scene cleanup, firearm replacement, even mental health counseling. Plus, 0 fees for a laundry list of defense-related costs like expert witnesses. So support the show and get yourself some peace of mind. Click the link in our show notes or visit our sponsors page to sign up for the National Self-Protection Plan from Attorneys on Retainer.
Hey folks, Pat here. If you're like Mick and I, you're a fan of classic tales like Lonesome Dove, Blood Meridian, The Three-Body Problem, and Steinbeck's East of Eden. With Audible, you can dive into these epic stories anytime, anywhere. Sign up for a free month, and your first audiobook is on the house. To start your free trial and support our show, click the link in the show notes or swing by the sponsors page on our website.
Want an awesome website for your podcast? Check out Podpage. We use it for the Mick and Pat show, and it's a game changer. Set it up in minutes, no coding needed. Support the show by using our link to get started. Your podcast deserves a home as great as ours. Podpage, the one-stop solution.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and then the next one was like definitely like more quality, but still as strange, right? Like, because there's like, you have Jeepers Creepers and you have Freddy vs. Jason, which you can like look at those and be like, these are ridiculous.
Right.
But like as a kid, there's some like frightening aspects to it.
Jeepers Creepers couldn't finish it. Turned it off as a kid.
Dude, I remember
The
like
truck honking as he's chasing them on the road.
Yeah.
I turned it off because I was like, I did a lot of road trips with my mom,
Mm-hmm.
and I was legit so scared seeing that. I was like, oh my God, someone could drive us off the road on a road trip. And I remember turning it off at like,
And I think
fourth
I
grade.
actually saw the second one before I saw the first one.
with the high schoolers.
Yeah, on the bus.
Yeah.
And what I remember is driving to Blockbuster with my dad in his like old Ford
Yeah.
to probably go get another horror movie.
Yeah.
And like I'm in like this Spider-Man costume that I had for my birthday when I was like 4. And I'm just, all I can think of is I'm just about to get ripped through the roof of this car. Like claws are going to come down, just grab me by the shoulders and just tear me out. Like all the high schoolers on that bus.
That's terrifying.
Yeah, no bueno. No
Yep.
bueno.
You don't have a favorite one that you ever saw where you were just like, that was an objectively good movie?
Honestly, that when I think of a horror movie that I'm like, oh, this was like a good movie that I like enjoyed watching. They're actually more comedy than they were horror. It was like the first, like, they're not even horror movies. They're mockeries, like the Scary Movie.
Scary Movie
movies.
5.
Or like Tucker and Dale versus Evil. You ever see that?
Uh-huh.
Uh-uh.
That is a great movie.
It is a good one.
Tucker and Dale versus Evil is like, I think maybe that movie will get rid of anyone's fear of horror movies.
Yeah, that's why I liked those kind of movies. It's
Sure.
like you like watch these horrific movies and then you watch a comedy of them and it like really lightens the mood, you know?
I'm going to save this. I have a good story about scary story. I mean, not scary stories, a scary movie and stuff. Because that, to your point, that's 100% something I had as a kid. Pat, what were you going to say?
For favorite?
Yeah, favorite horror movie. I made you watch a couple good ones. We've watched a couple stinkers.
I'm gonna go with the Saw series. I just
The
like.
series as a whole?
I mean, like the idea of it.
Yeah, it's
it was-
maybe
it-
one of the best series.
Like it fell apart. Like you know,
I will
like
be honest. I love the
Saw
first movie.
18, you know.
The first movie I thought was great.
Yeah.
Everyone after that, I was like, these fucking suck. Like,
Well, because these might have been the first ones I really sat down and just watched. Like I was like a senior in high school, like whatever.
Yeah.
And so it was like especially the first one particularly.
First
And
one's
then,
great.
Yeah. So the rest, like I probably will lump the series together as much as just like there was something about the idea of the movie that, and I haven't even watched it again since I was 17 or whatever. But like,
Mhm.
I just remember watching it and being like, to your point about maybe why the parts of horror movies you like, just being like, oh, this was gross. People died. People who shouldn't have died maybe died. Or in Saw's case, they're supposed to die. Like they should be dead. He's giving them a second chance maybe if
Yeah.
they're, criminals. So like you're dealing with nuance, not
Mhm.
just like straight good and bad. And you're dealing with personal choice, personal decisions. Like all these things were like, I was old enough to comprehend what the story was telling me, and not just be like, oh, these are scary things happening over and over again.
Yeah.
And so I think that one, that's probably the one that's maybe liked the most, stuck with me the most. Then again, never watched it again after the first
it's
time I saw it.
conceptually one of the better like series ever made. It was just so poorly executed.
I mean, I think the first movie does it
Mhm.
perfectly. The
Mhm.
first movie is like everyone has the opportunity. No one is cheated out of the opportunity to survive.
Mhm.
And the people who do survive are the ones who play by the rules to
Mhm.
survive.
Right.
And the people who die are the ones who can't like bring themselves to like,
Mhm.
overcome whatever that crux is.
Yep. And because
Every movie after that though, no one is allowed to live. Like if you
Oh,
watch the
yeah.
other ones, you're like, oh, these are all designed so the people die.
there's just no way out.
And the Saw purists, I've talked to some of these people who are like, they're obsessed. They know every single detail. They know the set designers for each
Mhm.
like trap,
Yeah.
and they're like, no. See, that's the point. That's why Jigsaw punishes what's her face because she went too far with the traps, and Jigsaw punishes her in Saw 5. I'm like, I ain't got the time.
Yeah,
like,
no,
yeah.
like I'm watching this purely to see if they can escape or not.
and that too being that I don't like demonic horror movies. I don't like them. I don't want to mess with those. I'm not into them. And so the one like this one in this case was like, yes, dealing with evil, but we're not in that like supernatural space. And so I could like, I could jive with it.
I'm more unsettled and afraid of that.
Hmm.
Like I know the name to say
Well,
to make demons fear and shudder.
Uh-huh.
There's
Jigsaw?
I'm saying like
Just kidding.
there's just like there's nothing you can do about truly evil humans. Like, and maybe I
sure.
feel differently because I've looked in the eyes of truly like chemically imbalanced,
Mm-hmm.
absolute like evil people,
Mm-hmm.
and I've come to grips of like, okay, I should be scared of this person. Like
Mhm.
the only thing keeping me alive right now from this person is a steel door with locks and like a like very shatter resistant reinforced window.
Mm-hmm.
The other stuff, like anytime I felt like that presence of, evil, like demons or whatnot,
Mm.
I have felt that I can take refuge in Christ and my faith. And I've heard that also repeatedly over and over and over again from so many other people who've encountered that stuff. Now, I think
Mhm.
the opposite might be true for non-believers, right? The concept of like demons being real and having no authority or control over them and being at their
Mhm.
whim,
Mhm.
right? Which is what we always see in the plot of horror movies, right?
I think that's why Paranormal Activity became,
Exactly.
like, the most frightening series.
The victims of paranormal activity are never believers who can just call in the name of Jesus.
Mhm.
They're always like people who are pretty much like they have no hope from the get-go
Mm-hmm.
because they have
They're
no
toast.
faith.
They're like, just accept death at
Yeah.
that point.
Yeah.
a brutal one.
This thing's been stalking you since you were 7, and
Yeah.
it's over, baby. But like, I'm genuinely more disturbed by the concept of like a truly deranged individual making their whole life revolve around stalking me and my wife.
I
You
think
know what I mean? Like
that's why,
that's more horrifying to me.
I think that's why Texas Chainsaw Massacre was so frightening to me, because I'm like, this man literally cut people's faces off and wore them,
And he was real.
And he was real. And
Like
he
leather.
just-
Yeah, that was the scariest
and
part.
He was just one of those deranged people in Texas, like living in the middle of nowhere, that just like preyed on people to happen to come past him. You know,
Yeah.
like
Yep. There was my friend, when she was growing up, her friend had a like Barney or Barbie DVD. Like, case was the Barbie or Barney DVD. Open it up, the DVD picture on it was whatever, Barney. Pop it in,
porn.
Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
That's a weird thing to burn onto the DVD.
It was just some sort of
like
either
someone burned it, or
someone
it was
did-
a
or-
Chinese copy
just
flip.
who knows.
Yeah.
But I think they got a lot of money in a settlement.
No way.
You sit your kid down,
Put in Barney.
put in Barney, leave him, come back in there, and Leatherface is wearing people's faces
Yeah,
Just
that's
for a
crazy.
for a 4-year-old.
Yeah.
And they got a big settlement from it, from that.
That's
yeah,
great.
I
Yeah.
honestly, that's probably like you're in a factory that's like like making these DVDs, and some guy's like, I'm about
It'd be
about
hilarious.
to mess some stuff up.
Exactly.
Right
Yeah, I think and that's
I'm about to do some damage.
and that's why I think they had grounds for it. It's like somebody did this.
Yeah.
You know. But yeah, because you walk back in there, and that'd be, as a parent, that'd be horrifying. Because like I do put a lot of effort into not letting my kids see any of this stuff. And back to what I said before, like, 1, it needs to be in moderation. 2, you got to be of an age to handle it. Like imagining my like kids like seeing or engaging in any of these things, like, nope. And especially because like they are so moldable, and like kids are also just more open to like the spiritual realm, I think.
Yeah, they're sponges.
You know, I think just in the same way that they're sponges for everything, including that evil stuff. Is just like, I gotta keep that away. Like, and I had a dated a girl in high school who she watched so much Law and Order SVU.
Oh my gosh, dude.
And so
that shit will fuck you up.
and so
I
many
swear.
and so many horror movies, like all the time. Guess what? She constantly was dealing with extreme anxiety
Really?
and fear all the time.
Hmm.
And I'm like, I wonder why.
Yeah,
Maybe it's because all you do is watch movies about scary stuff, and then a TV show about girls being raped. I'm
movies
like,
that tell you you're gonna die.
exactly. And like, it's just like, I was like, this
You're
is
gonna die, and we're not gonna catch him until way after the fact.
yeah. It's like, this is not healthy for you. You know, like this, like this is not good for you.
And then
you know?
chances are your family's gonna die too, because somebody else is gonna find them.
Exactly. So yeah, I think that all that stuff has just got to be.
Do you guys make an exception for horror movies that end with the good guys winning?
You know what? It made me. Us talking about Saw made me think of this one movie called like Untraceable or something.
Oh, I think.
And it was like very Saw-esque, where like a guy is like, I think it's Untraceable. I could be wrong,
It
but
might
this
be.
guy's killing people in very Saw-like ways.
Mhm.
And
He's doing it on like live stream,
yes,
and the FBI is trying to catch him.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And then, man, one of the craziest ones was the main character, this FBI agent, her partner gets captured, and he's in like a giant like tank of water, and they mix it with like some sort of compound that basically turns into battery acid.
Yeah.
Right.
Turns it from like water to hydrochloric acid.
Yep.
Yeah.
And he's like slowly sitting there, and like they just start pumping it in, and by the time they get to him, this guy's like a head and then a skeleton.
Yeah.
And I remember that was just like, I was like, oh
Yeah,
gosh.
but they kill the guy in the end.
they
shoot him
in like a not very eventful way,
No,
to be honest. Like
it was not a
like,
great way.
Yeah. But
that movie was super far ahead of its time, though. I see. There's something about like just like I guess like horror movies too, where like I do see in the end that like good prevails. You know what I mean? Like I do enjoy. There's a special exception for those for me. Like even if they're rather, upsetting or disturbing part way, it's like knowing that like in the end there is justice. In the end there is something good that occurs.
And that's what there is a difference. Yeah, in movies that like can engage in like extreme evil and horrifying things, but like hard thing about like majority of horror movies where it's just like there is no hope. There is no like the girl's gonna leave the shotgun again. Like, oh my god. Like or like but like or even like and there's just like or that ends so like and I get it, it's part of the genre, just end the movie and leave you feeling empty.
I
and
do
disturbed,
appreciate
but
like
I think
Stephen
it's
King sort of like horrors though.
Yeah,
What? Those are so. I'm sorry. My knee-jerk reaction is just shocked because I feel like those mostly don't end with good endings.
Yeah, but they're just funny.
I guess they are funny.
Have you seen The Mist before?
Yeah. That's brutal. That's not how it ends in the book.
Really?
No.
I didn't read the book.
No, that's not how it ends in the book. I can't remember exactly how it ends, but he doesn't just execute fucking everybody and then not have ammo.
You get to the end of that movie and you're just like, damn, that sucks.
Yeah, that movie is a brutal one.
Hey, time to watch an episode of Friends.
Yeah.
That's what I do after those movies.
Really? I always put on something because I'm always watching horror movies with my wife, Billie Jean, God bless her, and my buddy JB. There, it's just pretty much whenever JB comes over on Tuesday nights, sometimes it's movie night, and I throw in a spooky horror film. And I love watching it with them because it's the classic. They're scared the whole time. They're getting mad at me. They're getting unsettled. JB's turning to me like, bro.
Yeah.
And Billie Jean is like, you said this wasn't going to be that bad. And I'm like grabbing me and shaking my arm. I look at her and she's like, not even looking at the screen. She's like just face down, pillow in front of her, looking like the plot of the movie on like Wikipedia. I look at JB and JB's just like looking at the floor, hands over his eyes. And I'm like the only one still watching at points. And then at the end of the movie, without fail, every time as soon as the credits roll, they're like, yeah, it wasn't even that scary. That was dumb. Why did we watch that? That wasn't even that scary. And I'm just like, you guys are dorks. So I think that's also probably why I enjoy it, because like it's just like a cathartic rhythm in our like group of friends, you know.
Yep. And that's what for Mace Windu, she can't even handle like a bad episode of NCIS, you know.
Yeah.
So if we do anything actually scary, like the Stranger Things, Stranger Things they're starting to get some scary parts in there, you know.
Sure.
And she just can't. It's like full pale frozen, like
crazy.
full like I mean like just frozen in fear, like maybe one tear, like just I mean like just can't even. And so,
have you guys watched? My wife is similar. Have you watched Severance?
Yeah. I love Severance. Billie Jean and JB and I all watch it every Tuesday.
Yeah, my wife like after that like. Can we watch an episode of like Brooklyn Nine-Nine?
Are you for real? That's crazy. I mean, I'll be honest. The latest episode of Severance was pretty spooky. Did you see it? I don't spoil it.
I'm pretty sure I did, but I don't remember it being that spooky.
Dude, the freaking guy in the goat costume.
Oh, okay. That part was like it was weird.
It's pretty unsettling to me.
Yeah, initially because you're like, what the heck is gonna happen, and then. It honestly made me think of like
it's very demonic. A black goat.
Yeah. I don't disagree,
dude. If you want to make anything scary,
black goat.
Add some goat horns.
Oh yeah,
it makes it feel creepy.
It made me think of like first season of True Detective.
Oh yeah. That's a lot of people don't know what that horror is based in. First season True Detectives, and a lot of people have a hard time describing it. It's H.P. Lovecraft. It's Lovecraftian horror. It's all based in the like horror of a old and very powerful entity that is essentially waving its hand and got a cult of dedicated followers that's just beyond the reach of real life, right?
And anytime I see the goat, I just think of like the spirit of Baphomet, which is like the classic.
The Baphomet, the Baphomet goat. No, True Detective didn't have a goat in season 1, but there was the man in yellow, is what it was always referenced, right? In the spiral.
Didn't the first person who died have like some like weird horns and stuff?
She had bramble like antlers, like deer antlers and stuff.
Okay, that's what it was.
Usually
That's what it was.
something creepy. And H.P. Lovecraft, he looked like a weirdo.
Well, most horror, I think, like writers are weirdos.
Yeah, but he's
True.
Like, he looked like
Okay, all right.
like a wild looking.
Hey, this beer,
How do we feel about it?
it tastes to me like blueberry yogurt. That's what kept me like really confused the first like 3 sips. I'm like, damn, I'm drinking a Danimal's yogurt.
It smells like if you left Captain Crunch in a bowl and then like in the morning
Drank the milk.
Well, in the morning you had Captain Crunch in the bowl and then around noon you came and smelled it.
They make this because they throw entire pies like into
That's not real.
into the process.
That's
Same
not
thing-
real. Someone just told you that.
Same thing with their Fruity Pebbles. They have like a Fruity Pebbles sour and a Fruity Pebbles IPA. They just like load up boxes of Fruity Pebbles and toss them in.
That's not real.
I think I'm warming up to it.
Straight from the brewery. They told me that.
Well, yeah, they tell you that. I cannot imagine you can throw Fruity Pebbles into like beer.
Why wouldn't you?
Because
It's just grain and sugar. Same thing as some beer. Some Red 5.
You're
Maybe.
you're just a hater.
Yeah, I am.
I will say I'm on my 3rd sip. I'm not sure yet, but I just wasn't ready.
Oh, I'm down to a third left.
Yeah, I just
I'm gonna
I
crack
was
open the second one.
yeah, you should have it. I was having my Shiner Buck, so I just had a hard shift. That's all. I'm just
You went
Sure.
from diluted
beer.
like water beer.
from beer.
yeah,
to this.
water beer.
You know,
I've had this before,
Yeah.
so I know exactly
Yeah.
what to expect.
This
so
is
I'm
more
ready
beer
for
to me
it.
than Shinerbach. Shinerbach is very, very water beer. Shinerbach's water beer.
Yeah, but yogurt pie.
Well, it's not
Versus-
supposed to taste like yogurt. I think it's supposed to taste like blueberry cobbler, but it's the mix of it being a liquid. It's the closest thing my brain can associate.
What were those yogurt?
Go-gurts.
Yeah, yogurt.
Do that again.
That was a
Do that
Go-Gurt.
motion again with your hand.
those go-gurts.
Put your mouth on it.
Like
What'd you do with the yogurt?
like slurp it in. It tastes like a go-gurt.
Yeah.
Yep.
Hey, by the way, this is what I was gonna say. One, the movie that was really good that I liked about the Polish undercover cop, Hellhole.
Hellhole.
It's got.
Is it a Polish movie?
It is. It's
Okay.
got mixed reviews because a lot of people didn't like the ending.
It's in Polish.
I enjoyed the ending. It is in Polish.
You're just subtitling it out.
Oh yeah.
I respect that.
Helps it be less scary. You just focus on the words down at the bottom.
God damn, what did you just say?
I also think it like here's one thing that I think is the benefit to foreign movies that like foreign horror movies. You don't know if they're good or bad actors.
Oh, yeah,
That's
yeah.
true.
You have no context, but like you know, someone's a good or bad actor in an English horror movie.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways,
Did you watch Parasite?
I did. I didn't think it was a horror movie. I thought it was kind of boring.
That's just a general movie.
I did not think it was nearly as good. Our buddy, what was his name? Went on here on the podcast last time he came on.
I don't know.
He was just on. We talked about camp stories.
It's not.
Ty, yes. He really loved that movie, and he overhyped it for me. And I was like,
I didn't really love it, but I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Hey, I didn't even thoroughly enjoy it.
Here's what I liked about it as
I did not think it was Emmy winning
as a foreign
or
film.
Grammy winning, whatever it won.
They
Emmys?
made the dialogue in it really simple so that it could remain as a Korean film, like with subtitles.
Sure.
The fact that you can have a foreign film that does that well in the U.S. is actually pretty impressive.
I think that guy's movie about the train circling the globe in the forever winter was better with Captain America.
Is this one of those things where you give me like a
The
weird
Winter
obscure
Soldier?
No.
description?
Okay, all right. So that guy, whatever is, I'm gonna look up
Chris Evans.
Chris Evans is in this movie. He's the lead in the movie. And guys, this movie, you guys aren't gonna think.
Every
I'm
time
telling
I
the
see
truth.
Chris Evans in a movie that's not Captain America, I'm just like, this guy's not Captain America. Like he's like,
He has to pull out his shield any second.
Okay,
Oh.
Snowpiercer by Bong Joon-ho, who also Bong Joon-ho did the Parasite and a couple other ones. Guys, Snowpiercer, crazy movie.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I think it's just a sequel to Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. And I've seen someone make a video and like the case for it is unreal. But you watch Snowpiercer the first time and you're like, okay, what the fuck am I watching?
Is this like, what's his name, making a really good case for Top Gun just being like a homoerotic film?
No, it's not that guy. But it's kind of the same vein
not
of
that
movie.
guy, but just like same idea. Who?
Yeah. I mean, Top Gun is a homoerotic film. What are you talking about? I love watching that movie with my homies. No, dude, Snowpiercer is crazy. It's literally like at the back of the train are the poor, impoverished people in cars. And I don't even know if there's work for them to do. They just have to freaking occupy themselves all day living inside train cars because outside they will freeze instantly to death or something like that is what they're told. And the train operates on a nuclear engine and just circles the globe constantly and is using momentum in the orbit of the Earth or rotation of the Earth, yada, yada, right? It's just like fictional stuff, right? But as you move up from the back of the train, each car is progressively better off to do. And then they get to cars that are just like full cars that are just restaurants. Cars that are just completely devoted to aquariums, cars that are just like devoted to like early comfortable children's education. And like some cars are like dedicated to just being like one person's whole house.
Mm-hmm.
And you watch it and you're like, what the hell? What? There's no way they'd waste a whole train car for like this weird tiny elementary school for like the 5 wealthy elementary kids.
And you're just like, capitalism's dope.
But yeah,
or
like, exactly.
I think I should, like,
You
we should be
watching it,
communists.
You're watching, you're like, bro, this is literally like if like people crawled out of Jakarta into like, you know, like Boulder, Colorado, and like they'd be like, there's whole blocks just of restaurants, whole blocks. These could be houses, and like, you know what I mean? Like, it is one of those things that is just like insane when you're watching it, and but like it's very entertaining. Chris Evans is okay in it, but he's not even remotely close to the best part in it. But it's really good. It's really good.
I'm still stuck on the Charlie and the Chocolate Factory thing.
Yeah, that's why you need to watch Snowpiercer, so that way you understand that it's a sequel to Charlie and the Chocolate Factory.
All right.
You know that he ends up in the factory, right?
Charlie?
Yeah.
Yeah, and Charlie ends up understanding the debauchery of mankind and understands that it's only so long before mankind annihilates itself in a deposed destruction of the environment through climate change. So he uses his wondrous technology to build an infinite engine. He gives out tickets to join the train, and the tickets are given out through candy.
He's
and
like,
they get to join
I'm
the
going
train.
to recreate this series of tasks so that the poor people can just continue to
Who knows?
dominate.
Were they poor people or were they wealthy people that ended up drawing short sticks and having to ride in the back of the train?
The final train car is just the 4 grandparents in the bed.
Yeah.
I think about that all the time. I'm like, damn, that's got to be. Honestly, I think I'm like, that's pretty cozy looking.
Yeah, it's looking pretty good, bro.
They've got to be staying warm in there.
The fact that Grandpa didn't know how to walk. How long had he been in that bed, dude? Like where he had to learn how to walk again.
Oh, Grandpa Joe.
I loved that movie. That original Charlie and Chocolate Factory. So I always remember that movie as taking place in England. It did not take place in England.
No. Yeah.
But in my head, I'm like, yeah, that's in England.
It's in Europe. Vaguely European.
Vaguely European, just like all the other Christmas movies.
Yeah.
But what was it? Just like
Chicago?
Industrial age
Pittsburgh?
America, which looks a lot like England.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Okay, wait, there was one more thing I was remembering. Oh, the Scary Movie, right? Like how Scary Movie makes horror things less scary, right?
Yeah.
The Scary Movie series. I was in a cabin in elementary school.
Mm-hmm.
We would go up to this guy who owned a restaurant. His name was Old Man Trujillo. and he owned what was literally called Mission Trujillo, like the tortilla company. You ever know what I mean?
Oh, wow. Yeah.
He had a restaurant that was called the Mission Trujillo.
Mm-hmm.
And it was awesome. And he had several cabins up in like Deckers, Colorado. And he would just let family, friends have them for a weekend or whatever, or even like a week. There was times in the summer where we would go up with food, and you could drive into like the main, like little kind of tiny town of Deckers to get more groceries if needed.
Mm-hmm.
But some of the cabins had zero power, and other ones had like power and like water and stuff. But we're up in this cabin, and there are, of course, this is at the time, you know, hey kiddos, there was no Wi-Fi at the time, right? And there was for sure no damn internet up in the mountains. And so you just get there and you got whatever toys you packed, maybe like your homework or a book or something, and then you have whatever the cabin's VHSs were.
Oh, yeah.
And there was always something so eerie about being in like in someone else's cabin, and like this
Anything
guy has
horror in a cabin is 10 times worse.
exactly
Yeah.
right, because like we're out there, there's no cell phones, there's one landline in this one cabin, but there's not a landline in any of the other ones. So like you kind of know like there's other people who would come around maybe looking for that phone or need it, right? If they got stuck and they got, you know, they'd come, there was like literally people who would come and be like, hey, can I use your phone? Because their, you know, kayak flipped and got away from them, and their car is like 2 miles up the road or whatever. Anyways, so the feeling I remember of like being in this cabin, this was the one with power, and it had a couple multiple bedrooms and a basement downstairs level, but its bathroom was an outhouse, and the outhouse was that classic like Colorado outhouse of like a carpeted covered toilet seat. You know what I mean? And it's like you just piss into the abyss, and like there's just cutouts of magazines just sticking on every inch of the wall.
It's a horror movie in itself.
And it's one, and it like literally like you close the door and like lizards are running underneath the door into the cabin, or like beetles, and into the outhouse or beetles. But it was one of those like things. So I'm in the basement of this cabin, in this bedroom where there's like the TV plugged in, the one TV, right? And I'm opening the cupboard to it, and I just see all these various VHS tapes, right? And there's of course the like family ones that are like marked off and written on, and like I have no idea who this is and what these dates are. But then there's the ones that are just like someone brought them up here or whatever. And my cousin sees one and grabs it, and she was much older than me, and she's like, oh, let's watch this. And it was The Ring.
Oh no.
And bro, she and her sister, and then my stepsister and my younger stepbrother, we were all watching The Ring. And while it was playing there, in a cabin in the woods, right? And it does that like weird. Have you guys seen The Ring?
Yeah.
Have you, Pat?
I don't know if I have, but
are you familiar with the concept?
I've talked about it enough with my friends when this came out. Yes.
So there's the video in the movie that you watch. And that's basically in the opening of the movie, you watch the video. And this video curses you. It's a VHS tape that curses you.
The sound of that static.
Well, it's not just static. Like there's like weird sounds in the background. It's all obscure imagery. And then it says 7 days. You get you get a phone call as soon as the video ends. And when you answer the phone, there's just a voice on the other line that says 7 days. And then in 7 days, you die after watching the VHS.
She crawls through the freaking TV.
And here's the thing I didn't know was that my uncle or someone, I genuinely think it might have been my cousin's boyfriend at the time, but they somehow coordinated like wherever he was in town to call or whatever, because the phone rang right after that part happened, and everyone was like, no, you answer, somebody answer. And then my cousins, because they were older, right there, like in like middle school, high school at the time, and I was like elementary, they were like, Mick, answer the phone. Like, and they were like getting mad. Like I was in trouble. I was like, well, I don't want to be in trouble. And I remember picking it up, dude. I was like, hello? And the dude on the other line was like, Mick? I was like, yes. Like 7 days. It hung up, bro.
Oh, no, dude.
And I remember like hanging that phone up, and I just remember like going stalk. Like no scream, no wailing, just that's it. I'm fucked. Like I just saw what happened to people. It's over. There's nothing I can do. I should die. I should die. Like like that like scarred me. Of course, because I started forgetting about it right when we got back away from the cabin, but then I remembered, and then I was trying to count the days. I'm like, oh shit, it's tonight. But eventually,
Get the TVs out of the house.
Eventually, the Scary Movie that makes fun of The Ring comes out. I think it's Scary Movie
The Ring and
2.
the Grudge.
Yeah, The Ring and The Grudge are in the same one that they make fun of.
Yeah, because remember,
The Grudge was scary because it made me afraid to take a shower.
yeah,
The Grudge has this scene where, you know what I'm talking about, Pat? You don't need me? Okay, all right. But anyways, they smack the Ring chick with like a shovel back down the well. And that scene alone gave me the courage.
during the funeral, doesn't she come out the TV because the old woman dies or something?
I can't remember. It's been so long since I've seen Scary Movie.
One of the funniest things
Scary
about the movie is
Movie
when Cindy goes, she's like watching, she's like a caretaker of this old woman in this house, and there's a scene where the little Asian kid from The Grudge is like up at the top of the stairwell.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. It's like Yoshi no Kia.
Yeah, he's just saying like random Japanese or Korean words.
Every like Japanese
Shrimp fried rice.
and they're like having a full conversation. Yeah. I still get that on my Instagram feed once in a while, and I just can't hold it together.
That's why those movies are great as a kid, because you see them and it was weird. Like every horror movie that scared me as a kid was in the next like Scary Movie, right?
Yeah,
like
which
Scary
totally,
Movie 3
like,
was Signs, and
Yeah.
Signs that just effed me up. And I was like, oh yeah, aliens will come to Earth, and aliens will be terrifying. And then I watched Scary Movie 3, and they have like shovels that have shotguns in them, and they just like beat the snot out of aliens.
They like piss out of their fingers.
Yeah, and like I was like, okay, there's nothing to be afraid of.
It completely diluted like every bit of fear that came from those movies.
Classics.
So
Gosh, that's wild.
Oh,
We might be living in a horror movie these days.
you think so, Pat?
I think so. We've had there's wild things going on out there in the world.
I mean, I'm definitely not. I'm feeling a lot better than I was under the previous administration.
Oh,
I
yeah,
feel
for
less
sure.
horrified now than I did then.
Yeah, there's some crazy stuff right now. Have you seen what Trump said about basically going to take over Gaza? Did you see that one?
I
don't know the legitimacy of what he's saying
That's
in that,
because
or
I'll
what that
say
means.
I saw a lot of people making headlines about it, and then I saw Netanyahu speaking about support to secure Gaza, but not like U.S. owning Gaza, maybe like U.S. assisted occupation. I'm not
Just
entirely sure I
BlackRock
understand.
going in there buying every.
Yeah.
Oh no, it's just
So what did he say? Do you know what he actually said?
He said just a bunch of crap, or just like stuff Trump says. Just it's like you're like, did anybody read this before he came out and said this? It was one of those things. He hasn't done a lot of those lately, which because when we talked about him, it's just been like, I feel like he's made a lot of progress on like how he does stuff, and then he's like, and then he comes out with like, we're changing it to the Gulf of America, and you're like, bro. Just leave that alone. Just take all your wins. Don't like push the buttons.
That one is already done though, right? I think Google's already updated it to a couple spots.
Yeah, they might have. But it was just funny. Just why did you do that?
He just can't help himself.
He can't help himself. It just makes people mad, right?
So
same
funny.
thing with. So for instance, on
Canada,
this stuff.
state.
Yeah, exactly. And so with the Gaza piece, it's kind of like it's just like, bro, you gotta be careful what you're saying. And then there was a couple conspiracy theory videos come out today on as far as end times go, the old this region of the world is involved,
Oh yeah.
right? And so
Did Trump say he was going to rebuild the temple?
not necessarily.
Did he say about the red heifer?
He didn't say anything about that, but there is the red heifer piece. There's a millionaire in Texas who has been
Well, didn't
breeding.
they say that was,
Oh,
He's
yeah.
been breeding red heifers to have.
that was like the
for when we
original
need 'em.
reason for the terror attack? Hezbollah. That was the whole rumor, right? The original Hezbollah attack was caused because that guy had delivered the red heifer to Israel. Have you not heard that?
They were.
theory?
I don't know if
it's
there
a
was
conspiracy
if
theory
there
for
was a
sure. I haven't seen it
cause,
validated.
but they were like lining up where they were trying to get red heifers to Israel. I think they had indeed shipped a couple of them.
But that October 7th attack would have no effect on like Jerusalem and up there. But pieces of like talking about like basically anytime I remember as a kid, like Obama's first term, people being like, he might be the Antichrist. Like, you know, and then like whoever's the next guy, he might be the Antichrist. But then with like, for instance, with the Trump stuff right now, is some conspiracy people, you know, throwing out the old Antichrist verbiage on stuff, and you're like, no, that's not true. And then it's also like, wait, no, bro, don't mess with Israel's borders. Like,
yeah,
you know, just kind of like, hey, man, like it's kind of big consequences, you know.
It's hard to say because there's oftentimes when he says something kind of like he gets definitely hyper fixated on things where you won't hear something and then you hear him talk about it and then he like it's just like he just like goes up this ramp where he's always thinking about it and then he's not going to stop until something happens. And I think the thing with California and the LA fires and essentially the water flow going into Central California.
bro. The fact that all right,
he cannot stop thinking about it. Like it's just going to have to happen.
I think it's one the California thing is nice. We talked about that actually a couple weeks ago with Ty. But that one's crazy to me because I thought Trump went too easy on him when he went to the panel and sat down. And I know he kind of called out the mayor and kind of called a spade of like, hey, look, like you cannot cover this up. And to the credit of a couple people there, a couple people owned it and they're like, we're taking action now. He's like, good, should have taken action before. And they're like, we know. It's like, okay, well, just because you say you know doesn't excuse you of the responsibility.
Right.
But it was one of those things where like I felt like he should have been harsher. And I think there should have been like true, legitimate like criminal investigations into
Just negligence.
and negligence, embezzlement, bribery. Right, literally, conspiracy, not conspiracy of sedition, but conspiracy to legitimately defraud the state of California and the civilians of California from their own water rights.
Yeah,
and so like that's like the thing that like gets me like pretty pissed because you look into it, man, and like there's a reason those hydrants were empty, and it's because California sold that water to private firms, essentially. Well, one private person, quote unquote. But it's essentially like wrapped up in firms that have the water rights to it. And that's insane. And they could have released the water too. Like they could have like helped support the fires and they didn't because of how much money it would have quote unquote cost them.
And I would think 10 times out of 10, whatever the insurance companies are doing are a really good predictor of what's going to happen.
Yeah, no kidding,
like,
right?
That's like the pinnacle of where the money is going. If the insurance companies are doing something, they know what's up. Like they're not like, they're like very particular about what they're spending on. So if you see that they're pulling out of something, you got days until something happens.
I said a conspiracy theory that I'm waiting to come true. I said it a couple of weeks ago. Pat was here. Pat seemed to look like a skeptic. I couldn't tell if you were really skeptic.
Remind me of this one.
So a lot of these millionaire, billionaire properties aren't ever insured by private insurance companies because the cost to insure them and even a moderate risky area is just too high. Because if anything ever happened, let's say even someone commits insurance fraud and the insurance company can't prove it, they are out hundreds of millions of dollars sometimes. I'm actually not aware of a property that is is not commercial that costs over $500-600 million in the U.S.
You think this is a rezoning conspiracy?
Yes, because if you look, Paul Rand has done actually this presentation several times. You can watch several different videos about it where he's gone and spoken at events, but he's also spoken to Congress about it, where the federal government has insurance and you can essentially pay the federal government to insure your house and your property as long as it's in a I can't remember the exact technicality around like the classification of the property, But most of these like millionaire and billionaires' homes are not insured by Geico. They're not insured by Allstate. They're insured by the federal government.
That's pretty crazy.
And think about this. Think about the collapse of the California housing market lately. California's property values have been cratering compared to other locations because of the exodus out of California. It's harder to have a job and maintain it. And the crime on the rise in California has destroyed a lot of property value in tons of neighborhoods. And so with that, I genuinely think there could have been I'm not saying everyone in a neighborhood, right? But I would not be surprised if there's a few people who, once the fires started, they greased palms to prevent the fires being essentially stopped as quickly, right? Of like, actually, we should let it burn.
Let's just let it go down.
Because if it burns, then we get our payouts from the Fed. And then we can take that money and we can buy new property elsewhere, not in California.
Do you
That's
know
going to be
the
a better investment.
upside to some of that land being rezoned?
Like hopefully goes back to wait. What do you mean slight upside?
Well,
of like slight upside of the fire or slight upside of them rezoning for the federal government to insure it?
No. For say post
Post-fire.
Post-fire, a lot of those properties get rezoned as for commercial use.
Yeah.
One of the biggest issues in LA and most major cities in California is time and time again, people have shot down like proposals for like apartment buildings or any other commercial use, because that ultimately will decrease the value of their own homes in the neighborhoods. So this is kind of like the loop of hypocrisy, right? Like the people that they'll vote for people to quote unquote care for the needy and the poor.
Yeah, we'll
as long as
vote.
it's not in their own vicinity.
We vote for people. We're gonna create programs that take tax dollars and fund like programs to take care of the needy and the poor and keep them off the streets and help them, but also not in our neighborhood. We don't want them in our neighborhood,
and I don't want my house losing any value whatsoever.
Exactly.
Right? So you go in like
not in my
places like-
backyard,
right? Like places like San Diego where like properties are skyrocketing because there's no cheaper like housing or apartments or like any rental opportunities being produced in those areas. So like we could very much so see the prices in California become much more reasonable in a way that they've never had been before, because these like entire neighborhoods just get rezoned as commercial use.
Bro, I genuinely think though the LA fires could have just like catalyzed LA into becoming the next Detroit. Like I would not be surprised in like 10, 20 years from now, LA has become essentially like primarily a like blue collar labor class and like industrial zoning area for manufacturing or whatever, because it's right there on the coast near the harbor, and it is far cheaper to kind of have that manufacturing there than it was ever like inland in Detroit and like the other Great Lake areas. And you just kind of have that rebuild structure of a collapsed economy and lost value, because so many of those companies, like think about the businesses that just got payouts for being like insured properties, right? And now they don't need to worry about liquidating their stuff, like their like actual stocked shelves, right? They don't need to worry about anything. They can just be like, building burnt down, offices burnt down. Those employees get a severance package because they can't go to work, and we're not moving our like hourly wage workers, right? So now we can just take our money from that and we can invest in Austin. We can invest in Houston. We can invest in Denver, right?
Yeah.
We can invest in Billings and Idaho City, whatever. And it's one of those things where I'm just like, there is no going back there.
Because what does LA produce?
A lot of douchebags.
Porn.
So entertainment, right? Like,
right.
they're not known. Maybe I'm wrong, but I don't know of anything else that's coming out of there, right? Where if you look at like the past 10 years of streaming and or like independent stuff and like everything's not coming out of Hollywood, entertainment wise, or even like music.
Did you see the latest
music production, all these things, right? And so you have, because you can have two guys in the middle of nowhere if you have an internet connection, you can do whatever you want, right? And so like,
did you see the Woody Harrelson and Matthew McConaughey commercial in the vein of True Detective about moving all filming for like big productions to Texas?
And
they've already started in Vegas,
and that's what I'm saying. Like, when you can go everywhere, and like, it's easy to hop on a plane, get anywhere you want to go. You don't need huge set stages. It's all fake. It's all green screened, or you go to a site. So you're gonna either, you don't need to be in LA. If you need to go to a specific site, you're gonna fly everybody out there, or you're gonna do it all on a green screen stuff, whatever, or just like production's just so different now. Music production too, so different now, where you don't need to be in the mix, in the middle of in
the
immediate
scene
proximity, literally standing next to somebody. You can pick up your phone, DM them on Instagram, collab, whatever. So like that compounding, where everything's been heading, compounding with things like this fires, like it could be pretty interesting for LA as far as like what is it. And like now the rest of California, mostly an ag state, things that aren't talked about a lot is like, the grand majority of what that state actually does is ag and other stuff, and that's all off the coast, but site specific stuff, along the coast, like this spot, it could, why live there? What's the?
I mean, isn't it like, though? Don't you think that's like the best? A lot of people don't remember, but this also happened with the Chicago fires and the San Francisco fires. A lot of people don't remember that people started lighting their businesses on fire when the fire broke out, because if they did that, they knew that essentially like they could get their insurance collected on those buildings, and then they could leave Chicago, or they could leave San Francisco and like open shop elsewhere.
I think we saw a lot of people there's a lot of fires just getting started out of absolutely nowhere.
AB, you need to be careful saying that, man. There's a lot of people who are very almost militant against that argument. It's crazy. I've actually seen people in California being hit and smacked because they were inferring that this was like man started, man caused. Like there were people starting fires, and people be like, no, this was climate. This was purely climate change, climate neglect.
Change.
Yeah, and it was like, bro, there's videos of people tackling guys with blowtorches trying to start more fires. Like, what do you need?
And even if on its initial onset it was natural,
sure, people took advantage,
and
never let a crisis go to waste.
Yeah, it'd be the same thing as being like, no, people didn't during that like civil unrest. People didn't just break windows and take Jordans out of the shoe store. People didn't take, pull TVs out. Like, what are you talking about? Like, no, yes, like, and all the way up from where you have like you're talking about on a high scale of, okay, I have a $10 million house. This is the most it's ever going to be worth because things are going to hell. Let's burn it down and get out of here. All the way down to like just pure like anarchy. Like, I've got $5 in the bank account. I don't care about anything.
Sure.
I'm just going to keep it going. I think you have like the whole spectrum potentially.
What's crazy to me is when you see homes in California, like some of these homes that are worth like upward of $50 million that they just cannot, like people cannot sell, and how long they sit on the market for, and how much of a hit that they take. Like, what a perfect opportunity. Like, my house is valued at $50 million. I can't sell it for the life of me. People are not going to come and buy it. Let's just put it up in flames.
No, yeah, I 100% agree, man.
I'm not saying that did happen, but I am saying that it would be a very convenient opportunity.
I think it happened. I think it for sure happened without a doubt. I mean, it's happened so many times before in these other great fires that occurred in areas where property and everything's overvalued, that I'm sure that is exactly what happened. But okay, Dean, I don't think you've heard of this, right? Okay. Or what's going on. Maybe you have. And I was telling Pat a little bit about it earlier today. This is really honestly the scariest thing I see happening right now in our country. Which again, I will say this, I personally feel awesome. Like, I feel like I've never been more safe and like I've never felt more like I have a group of people that have my back than I do right now. And like also like just in the eyes of society, like or eyes of like the cultural norm. I think a lot of people during like the last Biden administration, who I'm not even saying are like right leaning or far right or whatever, but that just weren't on board with the agenda of a lot of organizations and things and a lot of the direction we were going in. I think a lot of those people felt like, gosh, I wonder if anyone else feels the way I feel, because this is lunacy. This is insanity.
Mm-hmm.
But if I speak out, I'm afraid of being ostracized or even losing my job or something like that. And now all of a sudden, like, everyone's talking about it. It's totally okay to not agree anymore. It's not okay to hate. It's not okay to be like a bigot, right? But it's also okay to be like, nope, this is insanity and I don't support it. And that's okay. I don't need to support it. You can support it. I don't. And I think that's why I feel so good. Like, feel like safe and stuff like that. You know what I mean? Like, I don't feel like we're in danger. I'm not worried. I don't have an anxiety. Also, there's a lot of people freaking out about what's going on in the government. I don't know anybody in the government who's freaking out about it. Okay. That's a big thing. What are you going to say, Dean?
I would say that I do.
That works for like the Fed that's freaking out?
Yeah.
Really? Please do go into detail.
In full discretion, I have heard of like some things basically down the pipeline. This was actually really good perspective for me, because from my eyes, like you see like the state of our government, you see the state of the country, you see the debt that is looming over our heads, and the only option for survival is to just start cutting things down, right? Like,
oh, sure.
You really wonder, like, when we were, not saying this guy was a good president, but like under Bill Clinton, it's crazy that we were in a surplus, and that was not that long ago, right? Like, how could things have gotten to the point that they are now? How could our spending have gotten so out of control?
Yeah.
Like, this is what happens when things get neglected for so long. You have to cut back at some point, or you're just gonna, like, it's just gonna implode.
Yeah.
Now, the downside of people being so negligent for so long is that ultimately, at the end of the day, like, people that probably don't deserve it will start to lose their jobs as a result. Like, and these are just standard people. They're just trying to take care of their family, take care of their kids. Most of these people probably don't really know like the overall bureaucracy of like the agency, or like where it is that they're working. That's the majority of these people. They're just people trying to do their jobs. But there are like a good grouping of this managerial class across the board of people that are just absolute dog shit to the country and in their own agencies, right? And the people below them are just trying to do their jobs.
Suffer.
Like,
well,
they have
we'll see.
They have to suffer the consequences of those people ultimately.
At least
that kind of
short-term.
sucks.
Yeah. 'Cause I do feel for like the individual in that case, you know, like the other part of me would be like, also for most of those individuals, be like, yeah, bro, but I think you were like, your Facebook post in 2020 was like super pro socialism. So like, take one for the team. You know, like you know what I mean? Like put your money where your mouth is.
It's funny.
But I feel for the day-to-day worker, the grunt guy who's just sitting there going, how am I going to provide for my family if I lose this job? I do understand that, like the fear and the and I do think like almost always that's who gets hurt when huge. Like,
who's
huge
this?
cuts happen.
Who's this? Because I
Right.
and I say this is from the perspective of like, I have an inside perspective on who these people are, I guess, right? Not like actual individual names, right? But like what I see them do from day to day. And I'm curious, like, when you guys say the guy who's working is a job, the lady working her job to put food on the table, who is that? Because I'll be honest, I see a lot of people who work and will do, and like they do their job, and they have not lost their jobs yet. I am seeing a lot of federal people who have not worked, not been in office, not been available, not answered their phone,
Right.
and they are losing their jobs.
Sure, and that's
you know what I mean. And like, so that's why
yeah.
I'm like I'm just not entirely sure.
That's
I
not a
understand
bad,
who
like-
you guys are talking
Yeah,
about.
that's not a bad
I
thing,
think-
but from the perspective
I'm not saying you
of
guys are saying
yeah,
it's a bad thing.
a
either.
family at which you used to live with is now on the end of people around them are losing their jobs in a snap of the fingers just
Mhm.
because of how recently they got hired, and it's making their jobs 2-3 times more difficult because the structures at which they have put in place are ultimately collapsing
Mm-hmm.
due to the negligence of spending. That it's not their problem, not something that's within their realm, and they're kind of suffering the consequences.
Okay,
And
but you got to give me
there's-
more concrete things, Dean. You got to give me more like
you
who-
used to live with them.
I don't know them. I don't know any of the people.
You lived in their home.
I lived in their
Yeah,
home,
but-
or
and
did
I
we
think-
share the home?
No, you lived in their home
I lived in their home
for a short period of time.
for a short period of time. Oh yes,
Jeez
yes.
almighty.
I understand what you're talking about. Yes.
This is like,
Okay, I think I figured it out. So are you saying they're losing their job?
no. But they oversee a great deal of people that
Yeah.
are going to be losing their jobs due to just nothing of how they have been doing their jobs, but likely where they live and the time at which they got hired. No, that's
Sure.
like bottom of the pipeline.
Sure.
I would say that is a necessary problem. Like that is a
yeah, okay.
necessary thing that needs to happen. It is just unfortunate for those people.
Well, it is
Because the
unfortunate.
system's been messed up that way.
Right,
And
right.
to your point, I think we're getting at, for those listening, like, we're not wanting bread to not be on people's tables,
No.
but what we're about to talk about is, like, the system's got to be redone.
I'll say this. I was probably one of a dozen people
Mm-hmm.
who worked at that location and was present at that location for about 9 months at any 8-hour shift period. And that's, I think, what is probably catching up and biting that organization in the butt. That organization, it is a federal government organization. During COVID, a lot of people were not required to come to the office.
Mhm.
They kept their jobs. Post-COVID, a lot of people still don't have to come back in.
Yeah.
And they continue to get paid the same thing they got paid, and there's not anything when it comes to investigation to justify their seat at an empty desk, especially when a federal auditor is walking through
Mm-hmm.
and trying to see, like, hey, I've just gone through the last 5 floors, and
Mhm.
there's about 3 people in each of these 100 cubicles on these floors. Also, where are the people who are supposed to be in these more hands-on environments, actually doing the hard, like, labor work? Because I see the same person every day when I walk in here, and there's no one else other doing the hands-on work other than them.
Yeah.
Shouldn't they have a team? And like, and what I'm saying is, like, that's not a reason that's not a reason to not have empathy for people in a situation or something like that. But that is a true, like, experience thing of, like, when it comes to, like, you have to do a cost evaluation. It's like, okay, what is the value in these people here who aren't here?
Yeah. And so something I'll say is, like, legitimate statistic here. Can you guess what % of federal employees work remotely?
This is cheating. I know it because of my job.
Go ahead.
Well, I know for the DoD, it essentially comes out to like 45%
Mm-hmm.
way higher.
for the. Oh no, I'm saying just DoD.
Yeah. For all agencies, federal government, it's 90%.
No,
Yes.
oh dude, I
It
know
is
like I know at
90%.
least 60% of the people.
Post COVID,
Yeah.
it is 90%.
I'd agree with that from my job, just going regardless of federal or corporate, like, because I do a job where I go on people's houses every day. They're 90% of everybody's working from home.
Yeah, but no,
Right,
I'm
right.
talking about like DoD. The reason I
Right.
think it's only 45% is because of SCIFs and like
That also
you have to be
includes all
on site
military.
and clearance.
Yep.
It does include all military. That's what I'm
But-
saying too. Like
all-
that's what I'm saying. Like I think only 45% of the DoD
In-
is remote.
Those people are required to go into a base once a month,
Yeah,
right? So that's
Yeah.
technically not even home employment. They're going in once a month.
yeah. I
have to
get what you're
live-
saying. Yeah.
They have all those reservists, they have to live near a base. So that number makes sense. But overall, that makes the the upper number of the rest of federal government
for
employees
sure.
way worse.
Yeah.
Because if you have the DOD, which is probably the second highest funded asset of the federal government,
Definitely
at
the number one
40
employer.
Sure. At 45%, that's pretty atrocious for the rest of it.
Right. Because now what you're saying is you're saying you're moving away from the talking about the plight of the small man. Now you're moving into talking about how many. But you're talking about how many people are just maybe are or not doing their job from home.
Totally.
Right.
And I'm here like as somebody to say that the working from home days are, if they're not over, they're on the course of being over. Like there was a lot of
they're on the course for being over for specific areas. I will say this, like the consultant realm is forever changed. And here's the big reason is that the federal government they can try to mandate that how many I'll guess. I think I've said this to Pat before. How many consultants do you think are paid by the federal government for each federal government employee? Like, this is a broad thing.
I'd be like 10.
I'm saying this is specifically based off of the DOD, but you say 10?
I'm going 10 to 1.
I mean, this also includes all the companies out there that make product for the DOD. Right?
Specifically hired consultant, they get paid by the Department of Defense pays them as like a contractor consultant, or pays the company as a contracting company that offers consultants.
I don't even want to know.
20 to 1.
All right.
For every single employee of the DoD, including your armed service men and women, there's on average 20 consultants employed by the Fed to support that work and mission. The federal government doesn't have enough offices on site to bring back most of the federal employees, which is why the CIA has just offered, because the CIA is being mandated as well to have everyone on site. They just offered all their employees an 8-month buyout because they need as many of them as possible to take the severance and leave because they don't have enough space on site to house them and have them work.
Which is a lot better than the rest of the employees in the federal government that just got offered a buyout as well.
Well, no, a lot of them got offered the 8 months. They're just skeptical if they'll get the 8 months.
Right. And it's so hard for me on this one where I'm like, do we need that many people? I don't know. Probably not.
I will say the federal deficit would say no.
Right.
I will say this is also, no one knows who I am. No one knows what I do. No one knows the company I work for. But I will tell you this. I have yet to see a federal employee match the level of capability of the competitive market to hire a consultant. I'm not saying all consultant agencies are the same, but I have never seen a federal employee outperform the consultant who knows I'm on contract, and if I continue to perform, the likelihood I win this contract again and actually even get more seniority and more money goes up. Well, and a federal employee is like, I don't have to do dick. I get to work forever and have good health care, and I don't have to do anything.
That's what I was about to say. For me, the hard thing for me is going, okay, I personally think that let's take feds out. Let's go corporate America, remote workers. I think you could get rid of 60 to 80% of them.
Oh, for sure.
So
for sure.
And those are the
I'm
ones,
not disagreeing.
Right. But so I'm going just there, like from a productivity. Like I got a lot of the amount of time I spend in people's homes, and I see how hard they work, how much they do, and the amount of people I know who work from home, not putting in 40 hours, not working that hard, making full paychecks. So now everybody's got to eat, everybody's got to live. But I'm like, even in corporate America, I think work from home people, most of your jobs don't matter. Sorry, that's just what I'm going to say. And they could cut 80% of you. And then take that to a federal government standard to what you just said, which was the fact that those people, I think that 90% of the people who should be fired from corporate America still can work 10 times harder than what federal government employees output. That means, I'm sorry, we can get rid of 90% of all of you.
And this is just perspective here, right? Like,
and this does come off harsh, but like
Right.
I do
Yeah.
agree with what you're saying, because I will say this: our mutual friend I know is a hard worker and has worked very hard.
for a
Right.
long
And
time.
has been probably one of the hardest working people I know from a government position.
And,
right?
and I'm blanket statementing these things,
yeah,
right?
me too.
But
But
that's because every
at the
team
same
has
time,
one person who's putting it all in, and then there's 10 who
Yeah.
are just phoning it in.
Well, and that's what I'm saying. Like, in knowing that individual as well and their work ethic, I still agree with you, Pat.
Right.
Like, from
Yeah.
my experience working with a bunch of others.
as is mine. Like
Yeah.
a lot of the times when I see people have the desire to work from home, my first thought is, I see how little you work in the office. If I saw how little you worked at home, I'd blow a lid.
And then on the flip side of the conversation, I would have the same thing to say. Should we be working 40 hours a week? No. Like you should have other things in your life going on. Like if you can I don't like to do hourly stuff anyways. Like if you can produce the product that's required of you in 10 minutes, then great. I'm as a company owner, if I could hire anybody who can do just the same amount of work in a quarter of the amount of time, I don't care. I think that's great. Now you just won back 20 hours a week, baby.
Well, and that's
Right?
that's honestly, like, I will be very transparent with you guys. I don't work 40-hour weeks. I'm available 40, 50. I've pulled 60-hour weeks at my current job. When the pull is there, I don't get paid overtime. I get paid my salary, but I promise you, I've had those 2 a.m., 3 a.m., 4 a.m. nights of coding to deliver and provide the mission, right? And meet the mission's needs. That said, the federal government can be so disorganized sometimes that it can be weeks where I have to make my work. I have to kick over a bucket of nails, count each nail and inspect to make sure they're all the same length, put them all back in the proper stack so they're easy to retrieve out of the bucket. And then I got to kick over another bucket, right? And like, that's literally like what I have to do to like occupy that time, right? And it's one of those things of like, you would probably come into my home, right? And you'd probably see and be like, man, what's this guy do for a living? Wow, he's not working really hard. But there's other times when the government is got its ducks in a row, or, you know, they don't and it's crunch time and they need us to pick up the slack. And you would come in and you'd like be like, wow, this guy is like, he's clearly on a bender. And like he's at like hour 30. You know what I mean? All that said, I truly do believe that the value from a commercial competitive market like you have in a free economy with like the consultants versus the federal government, right? Where you have less bureaucracy in a capitalistic competitive environment. In anarcho-capitalism, right? There's almost no bureaucracy, just pure competition.
Totally.
And I think in that environment, you would see that consultants or the people who support the Fed do a lot more work. But when the Fed is incapable of providing the work, then you just have a bunch of consultants who are essentially like, they got the keys to the kingdom and they are being retained and paid because we know we're going to need them to open that door. And if we lose them, no one opens that door.
And then also that's why your company charges how much they charge the government.
Yeah.
Right. Meaning like you're that's the hard thing about contractors too, where you go, okay, if I was a business owner, I'd say, and my main contractor is the federal government, I'd say, okay, we're going to charge $100 an hour instead of $10 an hour because I know that we're going to sit doing nothing for a long time. I got to pay my people.
Yeah.
Right. And so like, it's just like,
and that's the beauty and the curse of capitalism at the end of the day is that you have, for the most part, like nothing is guaranteed, but when it is guaranteed, you get no bid contracts where the government is blowing cash for no good reason.
Which I say I'm a huge
on the
anti no bid contracts.
Right.
We
and
just
when
won a contract and we had to re-win it against competitive bids.
Yeah. But even when there is sometimes a no bid contract is essentially like there's just nobody out there that can do the level that somebody else is doing. So you get charged a soap dispenser for $2,000 by Lockheed Martin.
Yeah, no
right?
kidding. Yeah,
Like it's
a bag of bolts that costs $40,000.
Right,
Yeah.
right. And in perspective, like what blows my mind is that this week you can have an agency like USAID get shut down with a budget of $50 billion a year.
I was going to bring this up. I have it pulled up on my computer.
Which is a Fortune 500 company in this country, and it can get shut down in the snap of a fingers. In the U.S. economy and us as a whole can just continue to live our lives as if nothing
Zero
happened.
effect. Yeah.
And
Like
that's
if
not
Starbucks shut down tomorrow, there'd be a lot of people, regardless of the caffeine withdrawals,
right.
you'd have like so many people out of work, out of
Right.
which but I wonder how much what Starbucks is. They're probably not on that level. They probably are, but like I'd say that's
bigger.
probably
The thing
comparable.
is you have consumers, like
Right.
you
That's the thing.
have employees, and
Right.
then you have consumers. So
Right.
when all of those consumers are affected, like you feel the ripple effect, because tomorrow you're going to go get your coffee from somewhere else that you don't know, and that company doesn't have the employees or the ability to handle what just got shut down yesterday because they just acquired all that business.
Right.
But this is something that there is no consumer, because
Yeah.
every consumer is not in the country.
Yep.
No,
And-
exactly.
and
What you
we're
just
paying
said.
for it.
What you just said is like, I think the biggest issue with that, a lot of people have with taxes, right? Is like,
Mhm.
we live in a capitalistic society. Let me vote with my wallet. Let me consume what I think the best product is at a fair cost, right?
Sure.
Or at least the one that I can justify the cost for. Like, if you're the only guy offering green beanies and I really want a green beanie, I need to accept I'm paying what you want.
Or if
until
you've
someone else comes along.
Or if you've convinced me that's the best green beanie, I'll pay 5x.
But the
You know,
issue
like-
the issue with like USAID
Yeah.
is that there is no consumer.
Yeah.
Right.
It's just a like, have the tax dollars, use them for something, but
yeah.
there is no product that is consumed at
Yeah.
the end.
Mhm.
And there's nobody. There's no consumer. There's also no customer, meaning there's nobody.
Nobody's
that-
buying anything.
It's promised money.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
it's like all these federal agencies. What popped in my head was like, these are all like mismanaged 501c3 nonprofits on crack.
which
Meaning-
are at their core just State Department back channels in other countries
For
that are being
did you
funded
did
to
you hear
carry
about
out
all the stuff
Yeah.
USAID was funding?
Politico.
So USAID, here are some of the top ones. USAID, and now I'm not going to assign words to if this was wasteful or abuseful. I'll let you guys decide. One of their highest expenses that they were funding was $1.5 million a year to advance diversity, equity, and inclusion in Serbia's workplaces and business communities. They also,
If anybody can point out where Serbia is on a map, I'll give them $100.
they also were paying. They had
How many
funded.
black dudes are in Serbia, anyways?
They had funded $47,000 for a transgender opera in Colombia, and a $32,000 funding for the development of a transgender comic book in Peru. Now, I will be honest. To me, that sounds, regardless of even if it was something I agreed with,
It's not food on some starving orphan's plate.
I think
I'll tell you
that's-
that much.
I think that's honestly, that's just like, if you could take it what it is, call a spade a spade. It's just propaganda,
If
dude.
you
That's just
were-
propaganda
if you
in a
were
country.
giving that money to anybody in the U.S., I would say, okay, you know what? To some degree, that money is being put back into the economy
Yeah.
in some way, but it's not
Yeah,
at all.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
when you have $8 million a year getting pushed into Politico to continuously support your agenda,
Yeah. That's propaganda.
Politico didn't meet their payroll.
Whoa.
And
If you didn't know that, that means that without the funding, they did not meet their payroll.
That's crazy.
That's asinine.
and aid is for food and medicine and shingles over
Well,
your head.
That's to the distract. It's not actually aid.
I know, but what I'm saying is,
It just sounds
It's
like
Agency for International Development.
what they tricked us twice.
Yeah.
It's not even agency for international. It's not
international development.
It's like radio
Is that what the
for
word
Europe,
AIDS always
you know?
meant?
yeah, the AIDS epidemic was the Agency for International Development epidemic.
Agency. That was this. Whoever came up with that though, hire that guy for
Genius.
hire that guy for your marketing team. Pull him out of whatever hole he's in and say, listen, sell these widgets for me because you are a damn master. Agency for International Development.
Yeah.
Yes, like roads and bridges and donkey carts and freaking corn. And gosh dang, man, that's so frustrating. And
What do
this
you
is
what do you
why-
think they were giving $2 million to Guatemala for? Do you think it was for like better infrastructure?
No.
It was for sex changes.
Yeah, I know. I was about to say gender affirming care. I was literally about to
gender-affirming
say
care.
gender affirming care
Yeah.
because, what a stupid word. It's a sex change. It's called a sex change for a tranny.
Pat's getting
if
hot.
you're wondering,
You can't say tranny, Pat.
I know. But I was getting in trouble for saying that word. It's closer than like the old words. I don't know. But anyways, gosh darn, man. I mean, what are we going to do? And so this is where, we start off this conversation saying, hey, bro, if you're at home and you work for federal government and you're about to lose your job, I feel sorry for you personally that you are feeling anxious and wondering about what's going on. Also, now we've moved the conversation to what the fuck's going on. Obviously, we have to cut everybody's job and rebuild this thing because it has gone off the walls.
And at the core of it, like if you were employed by the mob and all of the head leaders of the mob got just busted in a RICO case and you were no longer employed by somebody, would you look at that and say, you know what? I knew that there was a possibility. At the end of the day, like just because it's the government doesn't mean that what they're doing is legal and what they're doing is righteous, right? Like they're ultimately taking money forcefully from the American people and giving them to whoever and for whatever they see fit. You are working for the mob,
and with some honest introspection on that level too, all the way down to yourself being like, I know what was going on. It was kind of nice while it lasted.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Like, hey, all right, buddy, that's fine. Learn how to frame. Get out there and frame those 2x4s together.
You could have been running a bookstore that had an office in the back that was like a meeting place for some gangsters, just doing an honest living. But
Exactly.
It's like, it doesn't mean you weren't doing your job. It doesn't mean that you weren't making an honest living. It just means that the people above you weren't. And it's a
that's a good
reality.
point. Even if you're, and because from a standpoint, like honor and is a big like thing for me too. Where it's just like, that's a great analogy to say like, you busted your ass at your bookstore selling those books, but what was keeping your business afloat was what was going on in the back doors, that you turned a blind eye to.
Yeah, I will say this for anyone who knows the ins and outs of the federal government bureaucracy who just kind of lost their job, there's going to be a lot of probably consulting roles open. Pivot yourself and start thinking about how you can then come in to consult how to support the vacuum. If there's anything nature abhors, it's a vacuum. That money's going somewhere. So
the question is, what agency is next?
I
think
it's
it's
DOE, bro. It just got proposed, the Department of Education, to be
it's about
disbanded.
I was
100%.
talking with this today.
What?
To
Just straight up.
Just straight up get rid of it, bro.
yeah.
What does that mean for like my kids' kindergarten school?
I don't
I'm
think
going to
it-
put this in perspective for you. I
Go
was
for it,
talking
yeah.
about this with a coworker today. If we're talking about in the realm of public education, okay, take the best public schools in America, okay, take the worst public schools in America. There is a huge, huge gap in between them. How far from rock bottom are the worst public schools in America from rock bottom? That is approximately how much the Department of Education is doing.
Yeah.
Which tells me that states and counties are largely doing the work for education.
Right.
And if
right.
they're doing a
Yeah.
bad job, they can do a lot more.
Yeah, so on a federal level, we don't need them.
So
That's what you're saying?
how is it that we spend $75 billion a year on the Department of Education with there's something close to like 50,000 employees.
Right. And what you're saying is locally, you pay your taxes and that goes to your schools.
Yep.
That funds your schools. Federally, what's it doing for us?
Yeah. Now some of the largest issues are around zoning of schools and limits of where your money goes to. For example, go into Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
Now, your wealthiest neighborhoods have rezoned their education so that only their money within those wealthy neighborhoods are funneling into the local like public education. Whereas like 5 blocks down the road, you've got the projects with another school getting funded by a fraction of what you're funding your school for.
Yeah.
But all that has been legal under your state and cities policies, whereas that's not happening in the state next to you. So it's like, is the Department of Education really doing anything?
I that's the question, right? And I think that's what, like, this is also like, I'm sure we got to wrap up too, but the response to this has been very militant. And Reddit essentially just is facing sanctions for essentially like treason. Like people are openly on Reddit calling for the execution of people who are part of the Department of Government Efficiency. And they are doxing and releasing their addresses so they can be found and killed. And like they're straight up just talking about like, let's go kill them on Reddit. And now that those Reddit users have been like coalesced, Reddit is working now in submitting everything they have on these people and what they've said to the FBI, so the FBI can conduct to see if there's really like actual terror plots from these individuals to take action. Because they're I mean, even if you aren't serious about taking action, but you release the address of this person and who their name is, like what their name is and stuff, someone you're conspiring, and someone who is unstable enough to go and harm those people, you're providing them the means to do so.
And you need to watch out because the FBI is trying to keep their jobs too.
Yeah, the FBI is like, we got to justify ourselves.
They're working harder than they ever have.
Yeah, true that.
Oh man,
pretty crazy stuff. Anyways, all I said, I want to encourage people to try and observe what's going on and observe it not from a knee-jerk reaction, but to, just like we did with anything else that has kind of occurred over the last like 4 years in the previous administration, is like there was a lot of things going on that people were upset about, but how often did we see violence be a means to like a healthy result? Never, right? It was, and like you never saw in the last 4 years the right having a successful like response to anything they disagreed with through violence, right? And that was never okay. And so with that, like I encourage people right now, if like you're upset about what's going on and what is being cut from the federal government and what the federal government's priorities are, violence is not going to get you a sympathetic or empathetic support, and it's not going to get you the action you desire, right? Like, so approach things from a perspective like this is a moment in time. Who's to say what's going to happen after this? Trump could do a lot of things in 4 years. He can get rid of a lot of things, whether they're good or bad. And the next admin could totally bring them all back, right? It's one of the, like, don't make a knee-jerk reaction that is going to cost you your life, whether that's like you actually lose your life because you do something very unintelligent, like the dude who just tried to cross the fence to the White House and like immediately got sworn by Secret Service. That guy's going to be in a federal pen forever, right? And like, don't do something like that that's going to like cost you your life and your freedom, when you could just be patient and decide, okay, I disagree with it, what's happening. I am going to seek out like the proper opportunity to better like myself in these circumstances. And when my opportunity comes, I'll seize that for a peaceable way of improving my circumstances, like a new job, right? And I lost my job here, but my knowledge that I took from that is going to be super important to this next position I'll be in, right? And so I just, the last thing I want to see, even if I disagree with someone politically, is them make a very poor decision that costs them more than what they would have lost if they had just been patient and timing, essentially, quote unquote, timing the market, right? To reinvest in themselves, switch careers. I know a lot of people who are in their 40s that just switched to computer science, software engineering, just got a master's degree in it, and are now becoming first year on the job, computer scientists or computer engineers. They're pivoting from a lifelong career of like something totally irrelevant, but they're reinvesting in themselves and taking the opportunity to hop on this train and make real life-changing money, right? For their families. Do something like that. Those opportunities out there. It's not that hard. I did it, and I knew nothing about coding before I took my program, and now I'm a great coder, right? And I'm a data scientist. So if I could do it, anyone could do it. But I don't know. I just want to encourage people to let cooler heads prevail in a time that might feel turbulent to them. Because now you're probably feeling what, honestly, a lot of us felt over the last 4 years with the direction this country was heading. And we get to now, through that patience, seize the opportunities here and take advantage of them to better ourselves and our families.
Yeah, and one of the most defeating things is maybe seeing somebody who is being entirely consumed by today's political climate for the worse. Oh, yeah. Right? Like, it truly, eggs are a little more expensive. Gas is a little bit expensive. Maybe you can't afford a house. Those things are frustrating, but that doesn't have to take up 12 hours of your day of thought because you're so angry at what's going on. The people around you still need time and attention and love. You don't need to continue to consume and consume and consume. There's so many things that are far more important than this. And we've endured the last 4 years, and whether you're on the right or the left, you'll endure the next 4 as well, as many others have felt that they have too. And just kind of ride the wave. Stuff is happening. Stuff is moving. And you survived the last administration and the administration before then, so you're probably going to end up okay. I
think that's well put, Dean.
Yeah, and the other piece that I was just thinking of too is nothing's new under the sun. The world keeps turning. So if you are, I'd say a caveat to what I'm about to say would be, yes, the decisions that the big dogs make do trickle down to all of us, but also ultimately it's on you. It's on me or you, or if you want to change your position in life, you want to afford a house, you want to make it easy to buy eggs, you can't control it. So control what you can control, and what we can control is what we do. So that's, maybe you need a second job. Maybe,
vote with your money.
Vote with your money. Get out there, do what you can do. But my main thing, also in this case, don't be a victim either way. To be don't put everything on Biden. Don't put everything on Trump for why your life is the way it is. Because people under both, people under all leaderships have had success and failure. It's on an individual standpoint, it's on you. And just you are ultimately the you're the deciding factor in your future. And yes, people have bad luck. We have economic downturn, those sorts of things, and they go on. But at the same time, it's not owed to you either. No one owes you anything. So just get it done. And there's tie
your shoes.
Exactly. And some people will be like, oh, pull me up by the bootstraps, that bullshit old line. I'm like, I hear you. Also, yes, because whether it's right or wrong, that's your option. That's what we can do. And so, to take our own agency, not let what's going on around us dictate how we feel about it, not spend 12 hours a day victimizing ourselves or getting bent out of shape, and just move forward with it.
And Christ is forever and always bigger than the federal government. And it doesn't matter if you're on the right or the left. Like, there's always hope. And there's always something bigger to lean on than your elected officials. It's not something to put your hope in hands in, because they will 10 times out of 10 let you down at some point in time.
For sure. Good stuff. Thanks, Dean, for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Always a pleasure to have you, dude. Thanks, Ken, for listening. Hope you enjoyed this episode of Make a Pat Show. We will hopefully be doing another Bruiser reviews here soon. Pat, any sign off?
Till next time. Thanks for tuning in. If you love this episode, drop us a review. If you have qualms or comments, leave us a voicemail on our website. While you're there, check out our latest news, merch, and deals from our sponsors. Till next time, Ken.